Today, we continue our discussion on ventilator variables and initial settings of a ventilator. In this lecture, we will discuss various parameters as tidal volume, respiratory rate, inspiratory time, peak inspiratory pressure, positive end expiratory pressure, flow, and finally, fraction of inspired oxygen. Tidal volume represents the amount of air which is moved in and out during a breath. It primarily determines ventilation. In this lecture, we will also try to understand the graphical representation of these parameters. If we try to plot a volume time scalar, we find that the tidal volume increases during the phase of inspiration and decreases during the phase of expiration. Tidal volume is decided based on patient size and lung pathology. An ideal or predicted body weight is used while calculating tidal volume. The tidal volume set varies depending on the condition. In a normal lung condition, in a pediatric age group, 8 ml per kg tidal volume is preferred, whereas a lower tidal volume of 6 to 7 ml per kg is preferred in neonates. In restrictive conditions as pneumonia or ARDS, lower tidal volumes of 5 to 7 ml per kg is preferred in pediatric, whereas in obstructive diseases like asthma, a higher tidal volume with lower rates are preferred. Studies have shown that lung protective strategies with low tidal volume of about 6 ml per kg has been associated with a decreased incidence of ventilator-associated lung injury, decreased mortality, and more ventilator-free days. The inspiratory tidal volume equals expiratory tidal volume. When the inspiratory tidal volume is more than expiratory tidal volume, it indicates a peritubal leak or a circuit leak. Always, we need to consider the circuit compressibility, which is the volume lost in the circuit. Most ventilators self-compensate for this loss. Respiratory rate is the number of set breaths per minute. It primarily determines ventilation. The rates are set as per the age. In neonatal age group, a rate of 30 to 40 is set. In young children, 20 to 30, and in older children, rates of 15 to 25 are preferred. These may vary with the lung condition as well. Minute ventilation is a composite parameter which is given by the product of tidal volume and respiratory rate. In an adult with a tidal volume of 500 ml with a respiratory rate of 12 breaths per minute, the normal minute ventilation is 6 liters per minute. Alveolar ventilation is derived by subtracting anatomical dead space from tidal volume. In a normal adult with an anatomical dead space of 150 ml, the alveolar ventilation is 4.2 liters per minute. Similarly, in pediatric age group, considering a tidal volume of 8 ml per kg with a respiratory rate of 25 breaths per minute, the minute ventilation amounts to 200 ml per kg per minute. When the anatomical dead space is also included into the equation, the alveolar ventilation delivered is about 150 ml per kg per minute. Ventilation depends on alveolar ventilation equation, which states that partial pressure of arterial carbon dioxide is directly proportional to carbon dioxide produced in the body and inversely proportional to the alveolar ventilation. Since carbon dioxide production remains constant, the arterial partial pressure of carbon dioxide can be simplified to an inverse relation with alveolar ventilation. Alveolar ventilation is a true measure of CO2 removal. It can be altered by tidal volume or respiratory rate. Breath cycle time is the time taken for a breath cycle to complete. It is given by the formula 60 divided by set respiratory rate. It has an inspiratory component represented as Ti, where the ventilator delivers the breath, and has an expiratory component denoted as Te, where the ventilator stops delivery and allows exit of breath. Let us try to understand this in a pressure time scalar. The time period where the ventilator delivers a breath is called inspiratory time, and the time when the breath is expelled out from patient into the ventilator is called the expiratory time. The inspiratory time is the time when ventilator delivers the breath to a patient. It can vary with age and lung condition. The usual settings are in a newborn weighing less than 4 kg, zero point 0.3 to 0.4, in an infant weighing 4 to 10 kg, 0.4 to 0.7, in a child weighing 10 to 40 kg, 0.7 to 0.9, and in adolescent to an adults weighing more than 40 kg, 0.9 to 1.2. IE ratio is the ratio of inspiratory time to expiratory time. The normal IE ratio is 1:2. In a patient who has a respiratory rate of 20 per minute, the breath cycle time is 3 seconds. If we set a IE ratio of 1:2, it means that we are giving a inspiratory time of 1 second and an expiratory time of 2 seconds. Higher IE ratios, meaning with high inspiratory time, are used in conditions as ARDS with refractory hypoxia to increase oxygenation. Lower ratios, that is, with increased expiratory time, are used in obstructive airway diseases. There are three key terminologies which we need to understand before we proceed further. These include trigger, limit, and cycling. Trigger is a variable which starts the inspiration, and cycle is the variable which ends the inspiration. Limit is the target to which the ventilator controls the breathing. In other terms, trigger is how patient's effort is recognized by the machine and it starts the inspiration. Limit is what we seek to control during ventilating these children. And cycle is how the ventilator decides when to switch from inspiration to expiration. Flow is the amount of gas delivered over a set Ti. There can be an inspiratory flow and an expiratory flow. Usually, the inspiratory flow equals expiratory flow, and a difference in this value may indicate leak. Let us try to understand the flow time scalar. The flow provided can be of square pattern or of decelerating type or of sinusoidal pattern. The square pattern indicates that a constant amount of flow is delivered to a patient, and decelerating and sinusoidal patterns indicate variable amount of flow delivered during the breath cycle. Constant flow is seen in volume control mode of ventilation. A decelerating flow pattern is seen in pressure control mode of ventilation, and sinusoidal pattern is seen in spontaneous breaths. Flow has to be set to meet the inspiratory flow demands of the patient. Too low flow may result in air hunger, asynchrony, and increased work of breathing. Too high flow can lead to turbulence with inadvertent PEEP and air trapping and increased resistance. Pressure is the force applied on the lung per unit area. Let us try to understand a pressure time scalar in pressure control mode of ventilation. During inspiration, the pressure increases, and during expiration, the pressure decreases. The amount of pressure that is set above the baseline is called positive end expiratory pressure. The highest amount of pressure that is achieved during the respiratory cycle is called peak inspiratory pressure. The difference between peak inspiratory pressure and positive end expiratory pressure is called delta pressure. This is slightly different in volume control mode of ventilation, where we get to see two distinct pressure levels. The peak inspiratory pressure occurs as a result of airway resistance and lung compliance. Once the airway resistance is overcome, it results in a plateau pressure reflecting lung compliance alone. Peak inspiratory pressure is the maximal pressure in the proximal airway at the end of inspiration. It is the pressure which is required to overcome airway resistance and lung compliance. It affects oxygenation by increasing mean airway pressure and affects ventilation as it is a component of delta pressure. The usual range of peak inspiratory pressure is 18 to 25 centimeter of water. It is preferable to avoid peak inspiratory pressures beyond 30 centimeter of water, as it can result in barotrauma and air leaks. Plateau pressure is the equilibrium pressure reached if the expiratory tubing is occluded at the end of inspiration. It is a surrogate for end inspiratory alveolar pressure. It is the pressure required to keep the alveoli open after overcoming airway resistance. Peak expiratory pressure prevents closure or collapse of recruited alveoli during expiration. It increases the functional residual capacity, improves the VQ mismatch, and thus improves oxygenation. The usual starting PEEP is 3 to 5 centimeter of water. It can be titrated according to lung compliance in steps of 1 to 2. Lower PEEP targets are usually indicated in asthma and other disorders where air trapping becomes a major issue. Too much PEEP can cause overdistension and gas trapping, leading on to decreased venous return and precipitate hypotension. Let us try to understand the airway pressures in the pressure time scalar. During the process of inspiration, air enters from the ventilator into the alveoli. During this process, the air has to distend the airway and alveoli. The pressure that is generated in causing distension of the airway and alveoli is called peak inspiratory pressure. Once the airway resistance is overcome, an equilibrium is achieved, following which, if we occlude the airway at the end of inspiration, then it is reflective of lung compliance alone. This pressure, which is reflective of alveolar pressure, is called plateau pressure. During the process of expiration, air moves from alveoli back into the ventilator. The pressure that is applied at the end of expiration is called positive end expiratory pressure. The difference in pressures between plateau pressure and positive end expiratory pressure is called driving pressure. Compliance is a measure of lung distensibility. It is given by the formula tidal volume divided by end inspiratory pressure minus end expiratory pressure. The factors that affect compliance include connective tissue structure of the lung, level of surfactant produced, and mobility of thoracic cage. The total compliance of the respiratory system is equal to lung compliance and thoracic wall compliance. If we see the pressure volume loop, we see that during the phase of inspiration and expiration, there is a non-linear relation with the lungs becoming stiffer at higher volumes. The best compliance is achieved at the mid-expansion range. There are two types of compliance, the static compliance and the dynamic compliance. Static compliance is one which is measured during static condition or no flow condition. It is a true measure of distensibility of respiratory system. It does not include the resistance of the system. It is given by the formula tidal volume divided by plateau pressure minus PEEP. Dynamic compliance, on the other hand, is measured when air is still flowing through the bronchial tree. It reflects not only the lung and chest wall compliance but also the airway resistance. It can be regarded as a measure of impedance. It is given by the formula tidal volume divided by peak inspiratory pressure minus PEEP. So in a normal PV loop, in static or no flow conditions, the slope of the PV loop gives the static compliance. In conditions where airflow is patent, if the resistance during inspiration and expiration are taken into account, then that reflects dynamic compliance. We can understand these two by the pressure time scalar in a volume control mode of ventilation as well. Static compliance is given by the formula tidal volume by peak inspiratory pressure minus PEEP, as this reflects airway resistance that has to be overcome. Static compliance is given by the formula tidal volume by plateau pressure minus PEEP, as this reflects the equilibrium pressure after the airway resistance is overcome. Resistance is due to friction between air molecules and the walls of the tracheal bronchial tree and the friction that exists between air molecules themselves. It can be linear or turbulent. The turbulence of airflow depends on the viscosity of the gas, the length of the tube, and the radius of the tube. Radius is a powerful determinant of airway resistance as it is inversely proportional to the fourth power of radius. In a ventilator, resistance is determined by the formula PIP minus Pplat divided by flow. Time constant is the time needed for lung to inflate or deflate to a certain level. It is given by the product of compliance and resistance. One time constant is the time taken by alveolar pressure to reach 63% of pressure at the proximal airway. It takes about 5 time constants for lung to fill or to empty completely. In this pressure time scalar, we see that during the process of inspiration, it takes 5 times constant for inspiration to be completed, and during expiration, it takes another 5 time constants for expiration to be completed fully. During inspiration, the airway radius is wider and the airflow is laminar. At the time of expiration, the airway radius narrows and the airflow from the alveoli tends to eddy. This can lead to turbulence. Turbulence leads to increase in airway resistance. Hence, inspiratory time constant is always lesser than expiratory time constant in a normal child. Conditions which are having increased airway resistance like asthma have prolonged time constant. Conditions that have decreased in compliance like pneumonia ARDS will have shortened time constant. If the inspiratory time set is too short, the required tidal volume will not be delivered. If the expiratory time is too short, there will be incomplete exhalation leading on to gas trapping and auto PEEP. Fraction of inspired oxygen is the volumetric fraction of oxygen in the inhaled gas. Natural air has 21% oxygen. It is equivalent to FiO2 of 0.21. Hypoxic patients may need an increase in FiO2. We need to titrate for the least possible FiO2 to maintain adequate saturation. Oxygenation depends on two main factors, the FiO2 and mean airway pressure. Fraction of inspired oxygen. As we discussed in previous lecture, the partial pressure of alveolar oxygen depends on partial pressure of inspired oxygen minus partial pressure of alveolar carbon dioxide. Hence, we see that for each 1% change in FiO2, there will be a 7 mm of mercury change in alveolar partial pressure of oxygen. Similarly, for each 10 mm drop in PCO2, there will be a 10 mm increase in partial pressure of alveolar oxygen. Let us try to understand the mean airway pressure through this pressure time scalar. The area under the scalar contributes to the mean airway pressure. Thus, there are several ways by which mean airway pressure can be increased to increase the oxygenation. This can be through increase in flow to a square wave platen, or an increase in peak inspiratory pressure, or through an increase in inspiratory time, or through an increase in positive end expiratory pressure. An increase in respiratory rate can also contribute to increase in mean airway pressure by altering the IE ratio. MAP is calculated by a simple formula of peak inspiratory pressure into inspiratory time plus positive end expiratory pressure into expiratory time divided by the total breath cycle time. In summary, it is important to understand each parameter and their interrelation. We should not see any variable in an isolated manner before initiation or titrating ventilation support. We need to understand the key determinants of oxygenation and ventilation. Clinical and laboratory signs may act as good titration aids while managing a patient on ventilator. If you like these videos, please subscribe us and click on the bell icon for new updates.